A funeral is meant to be a celebration of life, a place to grieve your lost loved one, but they are becoming a target for scammers.
How dare they do it? They're just awful. I think they're the scum of the earth, to be honest.
ITV News has found hundreds of fake funeral live stream profiles on Facebook, all created to target people when they're at their lowest.
You can only imagine how distressing that can be for the family.
These scammers have really thought about this. How do I target people at their most vulnerable?
So how are mourners becoming victims, and how are these scammers getting away with it? I'm Geraint Vincent, and this is what you need to know. Well, our digital reporter George Hancorn and producer Olivia Mustafa join me now. Liv, I've never heard of anything like this before. So what's the scam and why is it so widespread?
So what it's specifically preying on are these funeral live streams. Now, you might remember from the pandemic, this is something that cropped up then where en masse people couldn't really go to funerals, and it sort of carried on. So what you have are scammers creating Facebook profiles where they find the information about a funeral that might be happening, find out some details about the ceremony, some details about the person, their name, their photos, and then the scammers are creating profiles which they're then using to send friend requests to of who are family members and friends of the person who's died. So if you're expecting the funeral to come up and you get a friend request from John's funeral live stream, you might think, oh, that's legitimate. That's the link to watch the ceremony. I'm going to log on so I don't miss it. But what the scammers do is they put a link in these profiles that obviously isn't genuine. It doesn't lead to a live stream. It leads to a paywall that's asking you for donations or money to view. And that's how people are losing some money to this. But it's not just about the fact that money's being lost. It's about the fact that these profiles are obviously impersonating someone who's died, and you can only imagine how distressing that can be for the family.
George, I know you've been speaking to people who've been affected by this scam. What have they said to you?
I think the biggest thing that we kind of found is the timing of this. So if these pages are popping up, say, an hour before a funeral is due to take place, how do people deal with that? You're already in kind of that it's very, very tricky time, very sensitive.
So there's a time pressure as well that they're piling on.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the thing that's really got a lot of the families that we've spoken to is the timing. These scammers have really thought about this. How do I target people at their most vulnerable? And it's pretty grim. I mean, family and friends are not necessarily going to phone up and double check that this page was set up by the family, and that's what scammers are really preying on. We spoke to Lynn, who lives in Denby, and she actually gave a message to the scammers who targeted her husband John's funeral. This is what she said.
How dare they do it? The day is hard enough as it is. Families are struggling, they're suffering emotionally. Everybody's broken, and then to have somebody come along and scam everyone that they can, they're just awful. I think they're the scum of the earth, to be honest. They're awful.
We really appreciated Lynn, obviously, telling her story and other families that we spoke to, because recalling all of that is quite tough. And I think you kind of hear it in her voice there. It's absolutely not what she wanted on the day of her husband's funeral.
No. Who's doing this?
Well, it's quite tricky because these pages are popping up all the time. They're being recycled, they're being changed, the names are changing. There are so many pages all the time that you can see still on Facebook. So we've worked with experts. Some of them we've tracked to Bangladesh. Some of them we've tracked to all over the world, UK, US. It's very hard to monitor these. I think as well, because people aren't necessarily reporting them as frequently as, say, bodies would hope that they would, because of the sensitivities around it, the pressures. People feel a little bit embarrassed maybe if they've been scammed by them. And that's what trading standards experts have told us. The body that regulates trading standards have said that there's a lot there to keep an eye out for.
To me, this has all the hallmarks of a serious and organised crime group. Unfortunately, these criminals are targeting everybody, everywhere, and that's why we have to be on our guard. But we have seen a rise of these sort of scams, of this sort of criminal activity over the last 4 years.
Catherine there from Trading Standards also told us that if you are seeing this, please try and report it, because it is going to help flag this, and hopefully more action is then taken as a result.
Get an idea of the size of the problem as well, or a firmer idea of it.
Yeah.
Olivia, from what you've found, what advice can you offer so that people don't fall victim to this? How can you tell whether or not a link is genuine? Because there is still a real role for these kind of services to play, isn't there?
And it is a really tricky one. Like, people shouldn't be embarrassed at all if they've been a victim of this because, like we said earlier, it's so last minute. And if you see something come up with the genuine times and details of the funeral and the photo of the person, some of them do look really very convincing.
Because that's easy info to get, isn't it? Just by going on social media. You can find out all you need to know about it.
Exactly. And the way that these scammers are working is they're able to add someone's name to the profile and then take it down really, really quickly. So yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. And I think the first thing people need to think about is, where has this come from? Are you getting a link to watch a live stream from a funeral director or being sent directly from a family member? Or is it a random friend request from a profile like this? Right. That's the first red flag to think of. The second thing is it asking you for any personal details? Because it shouldn't be. And the final most important thing to remember is the vast, vast majority of these live stream services will not be asking you as a mourner for any immediate payment. That's an arrangement that the family will be making with the funeral director, not something that will then fall to you as a viewer of one of these streams. So if it's asking for payment, it's not likely to be genuine.
Right, okay, good advice. Now, from the people that you've spoken to, I know there's some differences, aren't there, in terms of the response that the social media companies gave from people who've been targeted, ordinary people, if I can put it like that, and when you guys got in contact with them. So tell me that story.
I mean, we'll get on to what Facebook said in a sec, but the families we spoke to flagged these pages to Meta, the parent company.
As they should
Facebook,
do.
As they should do, yeah, exactly. And that would be the advice for anyone that feels like they're falling victim to this, is to report them. And months after the pages were first spotted, they were still active. So when we met Lynn, those pages were still active. We then spoke to Facebook, to Meta, and we obviously got a slightly different response.
Yeah, when we asked them to take them down, we flagged them rather, Meta said, well, we've taken them down now and there should be no fraudulent activity like this on our platform, and they encouraged the community to report this when it does happen. But obviously they didn't explain why, when Lynn had reported and her family had reported it dozens of times, why they were told that it didn't go against Facebook's community guidelines.
And I think that's why it's so distressing if you're, trying to crack down on this and you've already experienced this as a family, a mourning family, and for that page to still be active with pictures of your family, of John in Lynn's case, still up there, potentially for other people to click on a link, or potentially for people to still be scammed. It's pretty outrageous. It's
twofold. It's the risk of losing money, I guess, is the first risk of the scam. But then for most of these families that we've spoken to, the most harrowing aspect of it is that there's this scam with their relatives' name, photo and details up there that is almost this like lasting memorial to them. But that's not how they want their family member to be remembered.
Well, here's hoping those complaints are better dealt with by the social media companies in future. Thanks to the great work that you both have done, Olivia and George. Thank you both very much. And if you've been affected by anything we've discussed in this podcast, you can find a link in the show notes to an article on the ITV News website where you can get advice. In the meantime, thank you. Whether you're watching or listening, remember you can subscribe to What You Need to Know so that you never miss an episode. You can also catch up on our previous episodes of the podcast on Spotify, YouTube and ITVX. Until next time, bye-bye.